Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fan Behavior, an F1 podcast. I'm Zoe. I'm back with Hannah.
Hi.
We're in person.
And I haven't seen you in weeks.
I know. Well, I was trying to think about when did we last see each other, and we did see
the last
each
time we
other,
recorded.
right? Which was like I think a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which is a
Long
lifetime
time
for us.
Truly,
It's like dog years.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we had to re-record a number of episodes. So thank you all for putting up with us during that period of time.
Audio. I really hope it never has to happen again. It's not that it can't be done. It's that I don't operate well in a room alone.
Yeah, it's much harder. It was totally fine. And we always say we do better in person. I think most people that do podcasts probably feel that way. And honestly, it wasn't the fact that we had to record remotely that was frustrating. It was the re-recording. Mm-hmm. But
we did it,
persevered,
and it's in the past.
We're professional podcasters.
Yeah.
But I was out of town. I was gone.
You were out of the country.
I was in the United Kingdom, I guess, because I was in two different countries. London's not a country. England and Scotland. Got to go to the F1 arcade.
Yeah, you did.
Our arcade bar. I talked about it a bit on or shared a bit about it on our Instagram page. But if you haven't been, if you live anywhere close to London, or you're able to travel to London, or you're going to London on a trip, you should definitely go to the arcade bar. It is so much fun. The simulator, it was, I assumed that it was going to be like one of those games that you did like in an arcade.
Yeah,
where you
like one of the car.
It's like 4D style. Like you are feeling, I feel like I would the bumps. You are feeling the like if you go on the gravel, you feel all of that stuff. Like you even feel the bumps on the actual road itself.
Oh wow.
You can like feel the acceleration, feel the braking. It's really hard, actually. Like it's very hard, especially going into turn one, like knowing when to brake and how to avoid hitting other cars. Very challenging. But it was a lot of fun. We got to do, the way that it works is you do like 5 different, I don't know how long the races were actually, maybe like 4 minutes long, 3 or 4 minutes long. So you do 5 different tracks. Okay. So we got to race. We did Suzuka, we did Monza, Spa. What were the other 2? I think we did Austin maybe, and some other track I can't remember. But it was also cool to just be like, oh yeah, this is what it's like.
Yeah, from their point of view.
Yeah, to be on this track and to race.
So fun.
And yeah, super cool bar, like very like almost looks like it's like not 20s-esque, but like it's very fancy.
Yeah,
bar.
It looks really.
They have like
really
a
nice
wall of F1 quotes like
cool.
on the wall. And it's huge. It's a huge space. And we went at like 2 p.m. and it was like completely full.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It's okay. Just keep talking. We'll cut it out. No. Not now.
I can hear you now. I don't know what to do.
It keeps cutting back in and out. Can you hear me now? Mm-hmm. Okay. Apologies for the audio issue. Or where was I?
The arcade bar. Just how huge it was packed.
Oh, it was packed. Yeah. I was shocked. It was like off season, nothing, no like racing happening, but it was completely full.
Well, yeah, they had to fill their time with racing themselves.
Yeah, I guess that's
Where is it in the city?
It is near St. Paul's Cathedral. It's actually right next to St. Paul's Cathedral. Like where we were sitting, we could see.
That's one of my favorite parts about London, and just cities like that in general. I think it's so funny that you're seeing something so historic inside of an F1 arcade.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So anyway, definitely recommend checking it out. And I was saying to like people that I was with, I was like, this would be fun for just like fun for any time, but like if you had like your birthday, like maybe a fun place to go, just like with people, because it's like a nice, like I was with people who have varying interests in F1 and they both had like a great time. So like you don't have to be an F1 fan to enjoy the experience. Right. But then also if you're an F1 fan, you're like, oh wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So
fun.
Very much recommend. But I'm happy to be back. Happy to have you here with you. Lots to discuss.
So much.
I didn't expect there to be so much information. to come out in just a short time since the season ended, but
No.
here we are. So we'll get to everything. First things first, Logan Sargeant has re-signed with Williams.
Yes. And they took a nice photo a la The Office.
Yes. What do we think?
I'm glad for Logan.
Okay.
And that's really as far as I have thought about it. Like, I think it still makes James's like response. It's that part still feels weird to me. Like, I guess the cynic in me wondered, which I don't really have a huge amount of cynicism, but part of me went like, did someone else bail? Like, did they was that always the plan to re-sign Logan, or did their backup plan fall through or something?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, one thing about this sport that we've all seen is they make decisions super quickly. And, again, it's a business and I totally understand it. But I am excited that he gets another shot. And I hope that he's able to show
more.
Yeah. And not only for us as fans and for Williams as a team, but for himself. Like, that's got to be such a hard thing to sit with of like, there's 3 races a year in which they've decided that he's the hometown hero. That's a lot of pressure and also a soundbite thing. Like, with the most respect in the world, that's not how American fans view him. Most
at
of
least
them
now.
Right now. And so it's like a lot of pressure that he's not being able to. And we talked about it on one of our last episodes. Like, Alex is the one who scored all but one of the points. So where they landed at the end of the season is solely on the shoulders of Alex Albon.
Correct.
So hats off to him, but also that's a really hard place to be as a teammate. And so, yeah, I think James does a really good job of like building culture and team and like wanting to mentor people and build them up. And so I'm glad that he gets to stay in like that sort of environment for another year. And I hope that it pays off.
Yeah. I mean, it would have seemed really like short-sighted to just discard him after a year, especially because, as we mentioned before, they brought him up so quickly. And it's like, what do you expect to happen? I mean, in a perfect world, he gets a decent amount of points, shows some signs of something. And I don't know that he really ever showed. I'm not sure there was ever a race where we were like, wow, like what a, I mean, I think there were times where he was like good, like, okay, like he was fine, but never the race where you really were like, that was quite the performance. And he's gotta do better. I mean, like there's basically, I don't know, obviously I'm sure there are benchmarks he has to hit next season, but like there's a solid chance that keeping Logan or just the decision to hire him initially will cost Williams.
Yeah, and actually it's an interesting point because I wonder how, like, talking about money, I am curious about what value outside of him as a driver he's able to bring in with
like
his
sponsorship money and stuff.
Like that. I wonder if that played a part into it. And look, I understand if it did, I understand that too. I mean, we've seen, not that he's a paid driver per se, but we've seen that before.
What's the main, like the new, is it like a venture capital firm that sponsors Williams?
Maybe
DeLorean something.
Doralton or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Capital.
Yeah, whatever it is. I think they wanted an American driver.
Yeah, and that may totally fair.
Yeah, and as we said before, I don't think American companies are like, they're going to hitch their wagon to the best team.
Yeah.
Or the team that they feel like is best commercially for them. And again, as we said, like Logan doesn't have the personality, at least right now, that is like bringing a lot of people in necessarily. So anyway, I'll see how that goes next season. I hope he will improve. The question is how much, and will it be enough?
Yeah.
Let's do a really quick, way too early prediction. Will he be resigned for a 3rd year?
I mean, my gut instinct based on this season says no, but it's, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen this
I say no as well, especially considering the fact that, like, I don't even know the number, like 9 drivers, some crazy number of drivers are out of contract next season. And so there's going to be, I don't know the exact number, but it's an insane amount.
Close to half, it sounds like.
Yeah, there's going to be so much movement down the grid that I could see one of those drivers that like falls out of favor landing at Williams.
Yeah.
like, this might be really crazy, but like, wouldn't be shocked if like Checo ends up at Williams.
Interesting.
And like that would Checo and Alex, you know, would be a really good duo for Williams. I mean, just in terms of like getting points and stuff. We'll see. Next order of business, the F1 sprint schedule was announced.
It sure was.
So for those who missed it, I'm not sure if you, I mean, I feel like everyone's probably seen it by this point, but first sprint of the year will be in China. April 19th. Well, I guess the actual sprint will be on the 20th, but kind of crazy that like we haven't been to China in years.
I know.
They're like, now you're really going back. Yeah, which is going to be interesting. Miami.
Yes, very excited about that one.
Curious about that one. Curious about the decision. Well, we'll get to that because I have some questions. Back to Austria. I felt like it was the best sprint this year. It was great. That's in June. Back to Austin in October. Brazil, of course. I think that's a permanent sprint track. And then Qatar, which we also had a sprint. So we have Austria, Austin, Brazil, and Qatar that are getting another that had sprints this year that will be getting them again. We're losing Baku and Spa. And those are being replaced by China and Miami. How do you feel?
I think it's interesting that two of them are in America.
I do too.
I think I don't so much mind so we know I like the sprint races. I think everybody knows that. I think that they are still flawed in some, like, I think the way they're run isn't still like, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy it. And from a fan perspective, again, I do really go in with the lens of like people who are attending the races when I think about sprints. And it's nice to be able to have something significant for the whole weekend. I do wonder if that's part of the reason that Miami I don't know how the process of sprint selection is, but I imagine that the track bids for something like that. And for me, you know, at a time where it seems like now they're competing against two races instead of just COTA, getting people there, kind of reformatting their structure of, you know, the price of tickets and all of that. I think having an additional exciting piece of that weekend is important for Miami.
Yes, I agree.
So I'm excited for them in that. I'm excited for us because I think that's probably the American race that we'll end up at this next season. So I'm selfishly glad that it's a sprint race.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about how the track will be from a sprint race perspective.
Right, because we've had two, you know, this will be our third year with Miami, and both of the previous years woods were very unmemorable. Is that even a word? A memorable?
Yeah,
I guess it is.
Definitely.
I don't know why it feels weird.
You said it great.
Races, like they just were kind of nothing burgers. Like there was nothing about them that were like, oh wow, that was really exciting. I feel like in order to have a really exciting sprint, you need to have it needs to be a place where there's been exciting races.
Sure.
And so we'll be curious to see how that transpires.
I think the thing about the sprints that I also find so interesting is that they serve, I think, two significantly different purposes, which is that like one, the sports side of it wants to add something exciting to kind of shake things up, which I don't think it succeeds at right now. But there's also the marketing guest experience element of a sprint race, which I think it is benefiting. And
what do you mean? Like,
well, like I said, to not just have, you know, someone who can only afford to go, let's say on Friday, is getting to see qualifying instead of, you know, and then someone, you know, whatever.
Right.
Or if they, you know, can't afford Sunday, but they want to see the sprint, they get to do that. So I think from like that side of the fence, I do think that there's a lot of value there, but I think we need to meet in the middle a little bit more. You know what I mean? Because I think it's a bummer to me that the drivers mostly hate the sprints, and it's like, how do we get their buy-in on something that they have to do? Like their weekend, their competitiveness, their whole, you know, person is affected, whether positive or negatively, by this sprint race, which is benefiting fans, potentially benefiting the tracks and whatever.
Yeah.
But we got to keep the schedule's insane.
Yeah, I know.
And a sprint weekend is so intense that it's like, we also need to take care of them.
Yeah. Right.
So it's
also
weird.
hard to like be, at least from my perspective, like excited about something that I know they're not excited about.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, okay, well, if they're, you want to watch people do something that they enjoy doing.
Totally.
And so,
and you all know that they're just like,
right. And we know that there's a handful of them that do like the sprints, and or at least like a handful of them. But then there are obviously, a handful who very much don't. So anyway, and I do think it's interesting that there's only one in Europe.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating, given the fact that like we've, I feel like Monza is a great place for a sprint. I think Silverstone would be a really great place for a sprint race. Obviously we had Spa last year. I mean, there's probably so many others that would be great. So yeah, it is this kind of like, the sprint is kind of gimmicky, is maybe the wrong word, but like that's how some people view it.
Yeah.
And it is kind of funny that like they're leaning into that in America.
Well, that's also why I'm curious to know what the sprint, like how the selection process works, because to me it is gimmicky in a lot of ways. And I wonder if you have to kind of pay to play for that. Yeah. And Silverstone doesn't need to have the sprint because Silverstone is
Silverstone.
I mean, it's like, it's Monaco adjacent in that like you're gonna get a lot of people there.
Right.
You don't need the sprint to get people there.
Yeah. So
curious.
Alas, it'll be fun, and I probably also part of it too is they probably want to somewhat spread out the sprints across the calendar, so you don't have. I mean, we had Qatar, Austin, and Brazil like in pretty close. I guess we have April and May, June, October, beginning of November, end of November. So like, I feel like it's relatively spread out though. Like June to October is a pretty big gap.
Yeah.
Anyway, be fun to see which one is the best. All right, now for the big story that we need to spend the most time talking about, which is the whole Susie Wolff, Toto Wolff FIA debacle. Now, I know there's a lot of people listening to this that are still sort of confused and truthfully,
same.
Everyone is Susie Wolff and everyone else is still very confused. So there's at the time of recording, there's still so many unanswered questions, but I will do my best to lay all the information out there that we have so far, and share that with you guys. And then we can, discuss how we feel. So the FIA, this all began last Tuesday, I guess, when this comes out a week ago today. The FIA issued a statement saying that it was opening up an investigation into a potential conflict of interest between an F1 team principal and a member of FOM, which is a Formula One management. So for context,
I didn't know what FOM meant. So.
Yeah. So some people I think get confused about like, what is the FIA? What is F1? Like, how are they, because they are two different entities and it can seem like they're all one, but they're different. So for some context, the FIA is like the governing body, that governs F1 as a sport, but they also govern most international motorsport series. The FOM is like the commercial rights holder of Formula One. It's like the business side of F1. So the FIA is making decisions about, penalties or fines or things like these, like in investigations into certain things. And then F1 deals with sort of the day-to-day logistical elements of F1. That's sort of a generalized distinction of the two groups. Now, the FIA did not name Toto or Susie in their initial investigation statement, but obviously I think it quickly became known that that's who they were talking about.
And Susie's not putting out a statement like that if she doesn't know it's about her.
So F1 issues a statement almost immediately. Mercedes also issues a statement basically like denouncing the allegation, and then Susie herself puts out a statement, and I just want to read a little bit of what she said in that very first statement. I am deeply insulted, but sadly unsurprised by the public allegations that have been made this evening. It is disheartening that my integrity is being called into question in such a manner, especially when it seems to be rooted in intimidatory.
Yeah, keep going.
Intimidatory.
I know what it looks like on paper.
And misogynistic behavior, and focus on my marital status rather than my abilities. So that was a pretty, firm denouncing of what they were accusing her of. Then I think it was the next day, all of the 9 other Formula One teams issue almost identical statements within minutes of each other, denying that they were the ones that made an allegation or complaints to the FIA about this conflict of interest. And they also acknowledged their support for the F1 Academy.
Because the statement from the FIA said that it was a team principals.
Well, so I'll get to that. No, it's okay. It's a lot of confusing things. Now, Christian Horner went on Sky Sports, and actually, it was funny. I was obviously in the UK when this was happening, and we were at a like a pub that had a TV on, and it was on TV like that, as was happening. I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I never had that. Now, it was interesting the language that Christian Horner said when he was on TV. He said, "We never made a formal complaint," which is interesting language. I don't know if that means anything, but it is interesting. Just put that out there.
I will tell you that for all of the things I love about Christian, when I read this, he's the first person I thought of. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So there are reports that this complaint and the initial complaint stemmed from an article in Business F1 magazine, which is like a magazine that's not even shouldn't really even be taken seriously. They're not a very credible source, but they also have been known for putting out and writing just really terrible articles in the past. They were the ones that wrote that article about why female drivers need to lean into their sexuality. Do you remember that article?
I do. What is I remember just thinking, the fact that even got through the editor is insane.
If they want to get more recognizable and more famous, that's what they need to do, which is just ridiculous.
Cool.
So and it went into it questioned Susie for even taking the job initially with the Academy because of her marital association, again, which is okay. And actually there's a quote and then the here, I'll just read what the article said. Okay. The situation with Susie Wolff is rather more serious than many seem apparent. It is 9 months since she was appointed, and at first the team principals took little notice, but now they are seething as they have realized what is going on. What is unclear? There's no explanation, at least from what I can see, as to what the issue is.
Right.
What are they accusing her of?
Right.
I'm still not sure.
Well, I don't know that they are.
So anyway, it continues. A former team principal whose concerns were ignored back in April told this magazine, quote, "Imagine that Jerry Horner or Raquel Stroll were appointed to head up Formula 2 or got a job at Formula 1 or Liberty. It would be a ridiculous conflict of interest. It simply wouldn't be tolerated. Susie Wolff's job at the Academy is just the same." He added, "This is a time bomb waiting to off, potentially even more serious than what happened in Singapore last year." I don't remember what happened.
So it was a former principal?
That's what this
it better not have been Otmar.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
But first of all, it's why are we comparing, with all due respect, to Jerry Halliwell, who's an icon, but no experience, no,
right?
Not even a
her experience with
F1 is through her marriage,
right?
Because she's never been a racing driver. Right. She's never held any sort of position within Formula 1.
That would be weird.
Weird.
That would be bizarre.
Let's stop pretending that Susie Wolff and Jerry are the same and that they're
in this arena,
right?
Yeah,
Susie grown up driving, racing in many series. What was a team principal for a Formula E team, business in Formula 1. Come on,
yeah.
Well,
and what's this is where I get so confused. She did not get that job because she's married to Toto.
Totally.
If there's concern that they're colluding on something and they're sharing information that's not supposed to be shared, okay. But A, proof. B, what would she know that he doesn't or can't know?
Right.
That shouldn't exist either. And so go away. It's so ludicrous. Also, let's just get into a couple more potential conflicts of interest.
Wait. Let's hold the phone there.
But I'm ramped, man. How are you just gonna slow me down?
Because we need to. I
was about to get
okay. Go for it.
No.
Go for it.
No. I'll calm down.
I just want to make sure all the information is
I understand
properly shared before we.
Very good of you.
But yes, I completely agree. It's like that's the question.
It's lunacy.
What is the information that would be shared that they couldn't know? And also, like, there is genuinely, I mean, there probably are a lot of people that are qualified, but in my opinion, like, even when the Academy was first announced, it was like, wow, Susie would be a great person to work with this, because like, she's the most recognizable female driver associated with Formula One in the last, for a very long time. I mean, she's the last female driver to drive in a in like a official F1 event, because she did free practice, like, I don't even remember when that was. So yeah, so it's not like she was just
right,
whoever.
Because if this is just about, well, she shouldn't have the job, or she only got the job because she's married, then you are an idiot, because you've missed her entire career history.
Right.
Because from where I'm sitting, which I recognize is from the fan of I'm a DTS fan who only got into the sport a couple years ago, but from where I'm sitting in this cute little chair, there's literally no one else for the job right now.
Yeah.
And like, what, were you going to put a man in the job? Please.
Right.
We would have lost our minds.
So anyway, the story gets even more ludicrous, because then on Thursday, the FIA revealed that they will not be proceeding with their investigation.
Because they're weenies.
Now, this was their statement. Following a review of Formula One management's F1 code of conduct and F1 conflict of interest policy, and confirmation that appropriate protective measures are in place to mitigate any potential conflicts, the FIA is satisfied that FOM's compliance management system is robust enough to prevent any unauthorized disclosure of confidential information. The FIA can confirm that there is no ongoing investigation in terms of ethical or disciplinary inquiries involving any individual. As a regulator, the FIA has a duty to maintain the integrity of global motorsport. The FIA reaffirms its commitment to integrity and fairness.
Yeah, right. Come on. I mean, guys, can I just make a suggestion for the next time something like this comes up? Do that first. Like, don't, like, I don't even know why I had to make out. If what you needed to do is check your bylaws, you should do that first, because you just keep looking stupid.
So stupid.
Riling up the fangirls, which, can I just say, is a terrible idea.
100%. So as we are, Susie was also not happy about this at all. So when this statement came out, then she put out another statement, and here's part of what she said. For 2 days, insinuations have been made about my integrity in public and through background briefings, but nobody from the FIA has spoken to me directly. I might have been collateral damage in an unsuccessful attack or on somebody else, or the target of a failed attempt to discredit me personally, but I have worked too hard to have my reputation called into question by an unfounded press release. This is giving reputation Taylor's.
Yeah, it is, as it should, because it's insane.
She should feature on Taylor's version of she should be the one that does the, I'm sorry, what's the line? Taylor can't come to the phone right now.
Why? Oh, because she's dead. But I mean, it truly is it's so crazy. And actually, I just had this thought. If it's a former team principal, I wonder if they thought they could get the F1 Academy job, which they shouldn't have, because they would have been a boy. And that would have been stupid.
Unless it was Claire Williams.
Intrigue.
I don't think it was.
Probably not. But that does add an interesting spin on the story. But yeah, guys, seriously,
so now the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Well, first of all, I cannot get over how consistently inefficient the FIA is at making themselves look like they should be in charge.
100%.
It's wild.
100%.
They just keep shooting themselves in the foot, and I find it so interesting because they choose such a public place to do it. Okay. Conflict of interest. There's a team owned by the father of a driver. I don't know. Is that a conflict of interest? Some would say yes. Then we have what else? Oh, 2 teams owned by Red Bull. Seems kind of weird, especially since they're going to be getting the same car-ish next year, right? I mean, allegedly. I mean, as close to the same as they can. Seems like a conflict of interest to have 2 teams on the grid with that much level of intel. I don't know. Anything else? I'm sure I'm missing a lot. I hope you have a list that's more than that.
Well, and like Stefano Domenicali, who's the F1 president. He was a Ferrari principal, and this has happened before. The former F1 president, who is also Michelle Yeoh's husband, was also a Ferrari principal prior to that. This happens. I mean, it
makes sense. They're being promoted within the organization. Right. It makes sense. Now, I also think that if Susie all of a sudden became the team principal of Red Bull, yeah, that seems fishy, but that's not what happened.
Right.
You guys are being insane. So we have, and this formal complaint thing is interesting too, because it's like, well, if someone's just like rolling their eyes in like a, conversation or a meeting or something like that, what are we opening an investigation for?
And she's right in the sense of like, I mean, they make themselves look so, because this is the other thing. If you're going to make such a public statement about an investigation, then you've got to lean into that. The fact that they were like, just kidding. And then, well, the damage has been done.
Right.
You've already, and I mean,
this is going to follow her forever.
Yeah, and she already, and it's true. And I've seen it even prior to this, even when the Academy was announced and she was promoted to like head it, basically, a lot of people said that this thing, like, she's only getting this kind of job because of who she's married to, and people feel like her positioning within just racing in general since she's been married to Toto is only because she's married to Toto Wolff.
Okay, well, and they're stupid.
Right. And it's just unfortunate.
Yeah,
it's really, it's really unfortunate.
It is about who you know, sure, but like, I don't think it's fair to say, well, because she's married, because also she's kicking ass. She's doing a fantastic job. And this is where, to me, if I was the FIA and someone came to me with this complaint, you go, okay, we'll look into it. You do the due diligence to check do the checks and balances first. And then if in your bylaws, there is a clear understanding that something was broken or a rule was broken or there is an issue, that is when you open an investigation.
Right.
But the investigation should not include the due diligence.
Right.
Like, it should become post, like, we've checked into this.
Right.
There is a, legitimate cause for concern that something's happened here.
Yes.
And then you go public with it. I mean, it's just so asinine.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, it's just a really,
and also, like, I understand it, but also I'm just like dying to know who said it. If anyone.
If
like,
anyone.
Did it come from within the FIA?
And some people feel like, or was it just this one article that spurred this whole
maybe
thing?
Completely unfounded and
completely. So anyway, it's just frustrating. And as you said,
besides Lewis say anything?
Not publicly, though. I did notice. I initially noticed when the first statement was made that the first Susie statement was made that Charles Leclerc did like it.
Oh, good. He gets an ally award then, doesn't he?
But let's see if anybody else liked it. Besides Susie, besides Charles and Lewis.
And I also want to be fair in a way. It's not, I don't necessarily think it's on them. It's not their responsibility, but it's got to be exhausting that Lewis is the only one who's ever doing it.
Yeah. And also, where's George?
I was just thinking about that and I agree with you, but I also
Carmen did, of course, claps.
Yeah. And it goes to this, like, I don't know. Lewis is just, that's who Lewis is.
That is who Lewis is.
So it makes sense that he's the one.
Yes.
And a lot of the, they've all got other things that they kind of get behind. I don't know. It just is kind of frustrating that, especially with the, like, you're all here because of a woman. You all claim to have women in your life that you really care and respect about, or respect. And where are you?
Where are you?
Where are you?
And it goes back to the F1 Academy thing too.
Yeah, where are you?
Where are you?
Wake up. And honestly, like, with the most respect to these teams who have like so much bullshit to deal with, in my mind, so many of the boys probably never thought about it. It's on social media, like, it's on the marketing team.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
Yes.
Now, I would love to get to a place where it's on them as individual human being drivers.
Yeah.
But they're 25-year-old boys. So, you know,
much older in some cases.
Some cases, yes.
And I hope that, like, next season, especially, that they're going to be so much, like, there will be an academy driver for every team, that then it's like, then there's no excuse.
Right.
You got one right there.
Yeah.
So I'll be watching. We'll be watching.
Eyes on you.
Yeah, we'll be calling you out too. no one is safe from the rat.
And I just want to say, like, to anyone who's listening and is involved in any way with the social media marketing team, you guys are killing it. I just want to be so clear. I just kind of surprised me that missed the calendar. But
yeah, let's talk about the Lewis of it all. We'll kind of skip ahead because he was at the obviously the FIA prize giving ceremony that happened in Baku this past week, and Max and Checo obviously there as well to collect their first and second places. Red Bull for the constructors, Oscar Rookie of the Year.
I loved the mics that they were wearing.
Tough competition for Oscar. I shouldn't. That's no shade. It's just
it's stats.
He crushed. Lewis. He showed up to the press conference in like a sweatsuit. When like Max was wearing like a full on suit, and Lewis was like, "I don't give a f." He said he called it disappointing that the FIA sought to question the integrity of one of the most incredible female leaders we've ever had in our sport without questioning, without any evidence. Then just saying sorry at the end, that's unacceptable.
Retweet.
Facts, literally facts. Now, obviously, and we also should acknowledge too, like Lewis, he's been friends with Susie since they were teenagers. I mean, they've known each other for such a long time. So he also probably, not just the fact that she's, close to him and Mercedes, but also just him personally for so long. I think that probably also has to do with it. But I do have a feeling that he would have said it.
Agreed.
If she wasn't.
Now, also, because I didn't watch, and I often don't watch a lot of the press, but like, was he asked the question, or did he kind of come up with the? Like,
he sort of said it.
Okay.
And
that's the other thing I was gonna say is, I can see where they would ask Lewis those questions, where they wouldn't ask other drivers those questions.
Right. Yeah, no, he brought it up himself.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, he showed up, got his awards. Everyone else got their awards, and moved on with not a lot to really like report on that situation.
Just like do better, guys. Please
do better. Let's move on
for yourselves too, because you look embarrassing.
Yeah, you look dumb as hell.
I'm not making a good business case for us to be invited anywhere.
Well, no, F1 can invite us.
That's true. I'm not
F1.
Yeah, F1 has issues with the FIA too.
Well, yeah, sure. They are not. They are beefing hard. Okay, let's get on to some better. Well,
please.
Just more light news, fun news. Okay. Daniel's episode of Beyond the Grid podcast episode came out last week. Again, my timing is sort of off, but yeah, it was last week. And it was a really great episode.
Yeah.
I loved it a lot. If you haven't listened to it yet, go and listen to it. Available where, you find your podcasts. And Beyond the Grid is a really great, I really like those episodes and podcast episodes. For those who haven't heard it before, they will interview, it's like an F1 affiliated podcast, and they will talk to other drivers, principals, people within F1, and just kind of talk to them about, if it's their first time on this show, kind of like how they got to where they are in F1, sort of some background history. But they'll also, in the case of this episode with Daniel, because it's not his first time on the show, sort of going over the last year of his career and what it was like to leave McLaren and what the off season was like, and sort of his journey back into the sport.
Yeah.
And I feel like Daniel's always, he's known as like the joker, funny guy, but I feel like he is also like he's very vulnerable. Like I think he is, but he's just very open. He's very, where other drivers might be a little bit more defensive about certain things, I feel like he really shares how he feels.
Yeah.
Is very open about his situation.
Yeah, I feel like, and not that he and I are similar, I'm not saying that, but there's like, for me, if I'm asked the right question, I'm a pretty open book.
Yes.
And I feel like that's how he is. It's
yes.
really about the question and feeling safe in the environment he's in. It's like, if they, ask a question, he's not gonna like sugarcoat the answer. He's just gonna tell you how it is.
Yes. So some little highlights from the episode. Yeah. So initially he said that he and I don't feel like we really got the sense of this maybe to some degree, he sort of, at the end of the season, I kind of kept saying, like, I don't think this is the end for me. And I don't know how you felt about it. Like, I think you probably didn't think it was the end for him.
No.
And I didn't really either, but there was also like, well, you never really know.
Right. It's just like, how does he get back?
Yeah.
I think was the big question.
It sounded like it was a lot more he was a lot more unsure even himself, like whether or not he'd want to come back to Formula One. And like he really took like 2 months and just like didn't do it, like didn't think about F1 at all. I don't know if you've gotten to this part in the episode, but like he said, like when you're in, like when you're still a driver, even if you're like off for Christmas break, like you're still thinking about
how what you're doing can affect you.
Yeah. And he was like, I just like completely turned that off.
Because I think his thing was like, I know that if I have the second beer, I'm gonna have to work it off in January or something like that.
Yes.
He just kind of went mindless about it.
Exactly. And just basically,
not that he went on a bender, but he just like,
well, you never know. Who knows?
He might have. That's just, I just want to emphasize I don't know.
He didn't say that.
Yeah, no. I think it's just that. It gave him like a lot of peace. He just like existed without Formula One.
Yeah. And then he mentioned this on some other thing. I can't remember where, but he talked again about how going to the Super Bowl really kind of like made him miss the competitiveness of just, like a heightened competition. And so, of course, everything went back to the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. And, thanks to Danny Rick, because he's been to the 2 ones that the Chiefs have won in recent years. So just keep going back.
And I like love that. I love for him that he's a Bills fan. Like I know how much it makes him happy. He loves Josh, all that.
Yeah.
Kind of wish he wasn't for us. But
you know what?
I mean, just picture this. Taylor Swift and Daniel Ricciardo at the Super Bowl together.
I know. But that's the thing. It's like the Lord takes Daniel away, but the Lord give Taylor Swift.
Yeah, sure. And like put them in a room together.
That would be like, that's just like too much.
No. It's perfect.
Well, the Bills play the Chiefs today.
I know they do. But he's in Australia, isn't he? So because I was like, oh, and I was like, oh no, he's in Australia with Zach and Dermot. So
yeah, we'll get to that.
I know.
But yeah, so anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, the Super Bowl, that he was there, and that got him like missing sort of the competition, and it kind of got him thinking about getting back on the track. He didn't know if he was going to even watch the first race. But then he ended up watching like every single session. I do think that is like a telltale sign of just anything in life. Like when you notice that you're like invested, like you're like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. And then you find yourself like interested or intrigued. That's like
when you don't need to be.
When you don't need to be. That really is a sign of like, oh, okay, like I really do like this thing. And
I never left,
Exactly. He then, his first race like that he attended was the Australian GP, and at the time he said like that he missed it, and I think at that point he knew he wanted to come back, but he wasn't like dying to get back. Like I think he still felt like the year would be good to take a break. He talks a lot about his sim sessions and how like at first it was like terrible.
Yeah.
And then he kind of was able to like sort of bring himself back. And then the big thing I think was obviously the Silverstone test, which you probably got to that part. Yeah. So he mentions like, well, he spun in the first lap, which that would have freaked me out. Like if I was in his shoes, like that would have been like, oh God, like, I don't know. And I think he obviously knew it was such an important, there was more to it than just being a tire test. Like he knew this was.
Well, and he like didn't really go in the gravel or anything though, which I think helps. Yeah. Like he just kind of spun and recorrected and moved about his way.
But then he said that like his first time lap would have been good enough to be on the front row, which we had heard at the time.
Yeah.
But then he mentioned it was only a few hundredths off of Max's pole time. Which is crazy, actually, given the fact that if I remember Silverstone correctly, there was a pretty big gap in like the grid. Like I think Max got pole by a considerable amount. Now, obviously, like,
who
knows? And like that, he could have gotten it there. Who knows what would have happened, a different track, different time. Whatever, but I think just mentally it was like, okay, like
I got this.
Yeah, I got this.
It's also just so interesting to me, like this sport, and I imagine, well, I guess I can't totally say, but racing in a lot of series, like if you take time off basketball, you can still practice and like be on the court and play game, scrimmage or whatever. Same with football, but like the fact that the closest you can get to being in the car is a sim before, like, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah,
because he was talking a little bit about that too, of just like, I forgot about like some of it, and just like my helmet almost fell off, just all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's Crazy. He talks about breaking his hand and how he he was like, I did not handle that well.
The good news was the bone wasn't coming out.
yeah, that was funny.
Yeah,
he was like, if when he heard it and he knew something was wrong, and he's like, if I take my glove off and my bone is sticking out,
I will pass out.
And he did not have to deal with that, but that he didn't handle the pain very well.
I don't know why I've become a Christian Horner apologist, but I do also want to say that one of the things that I appreciated that Daniel said was, Christian was like, obviously we're paying attention to what you're doing. He's like, but I just want you to get in the car and have fun again.
Yeah.
And that's like, for someone who's so Christian Horner, I think it's nice to basically say like, I can't tell you that this doesn't matter because it's significant, but like, what's more
just enjoy yourself
is for you to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
And he is also he's a vibes driver. I know that sounds weird, but like, he's someone that like, he needs to be feeling good in order to drive well.
Absolutely.
And when he's not feeling his best, he's not going to drive well.
No.
So that's what's most important for him.
Amen.
Anyway, give it a listen. You will enjoy it. And
plus, when you can, and it's not like he's the only person that you can tell they're smiling when they're talking.
Yeah.
But you can just hear his smile basically the whole episode, and it's nice.
Yeah. And it's just nice that he's enjoying it again. He's having fun. He's having a great time. And that's all we can ask for out here. And then just a very quick note that the Spanish GP is rumored to be moving to Madrid starting in 2026. It will be
still a rumor?
Yeah, it has not been officially announced. But street track. I mean, I don't know what this means for Barcelona, if this means Barcelona is completely done for. Interesting to be in Madrid. I still am like, I like a street track. I think it's cool, but I'm also like, I like the permanent tracks too. And I don't want to see all the permanent tracks be swept away in favor of these big cities.
Yeah. Well, just the impact on the cities too. I mean, it's a lot.
I know.
It's not,
but it's
not our role.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see. I'm just going to go through quickly some of the people, what they asked us to talk about before we get to our fan and foe. A lot of obviously people talking about Susie, Lewis defending Susie, Logan staying at Williams, all these things that we have hit because fantastic.
We're all on the same page.
We are. Okay, fan and foe.
So
hit me with your fan.
Okay, so I have 1.5 fans. The half, it's just not like a full one, but I just really appreciate how much my parents are leaning into the fact that I'm an F1 fan. It's just really nice. So my mom we always travel for Christmas, so we never get like a Christmas tree really. So we don't know. Anyway, so decorating for Christmas, like I think when we were in high school, she got us a wreath for like our bedroom door, and every year she's added an ornament of something that was like significant for that year.
Cute.
Which is really cute. So I think like the year I got I was 16, I got a car. I got a London one at the Christmas after our summer in London. So anyway, it's really cute. But this year she was like, "Are you excited about your ornament?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I knew it was going to be either F1 or podcast related. But it's cute. It's like a little stocking of all the tracks.
Oh,
and I was like, that's so cute.
Rooted for not acknowledge your podcasting journey on your wreath.
Well, I mean, maybe next year, because she was like,
waiting for it to hit big.
Like, well, I could see it maybe like her not being able to find one that she liked that was F1 related and doing like a microphone or something.
Sure. I guess
it's all one thing.
I was going to say the acknowledgement of the F1 is the acknowledgement of the podcast.
Exactly. That's correct. But then, and I haven't even told you this yet. So while Zoe was having a time of her life in the UK, I was bouncing around work trip to work trip. And so this past week I was on my 3rd work trip in 3 weeks. Lord help me. I was in Denver with our like entire marketing team. And one night, the welcome reception we were all at, I was talking to a couple of my coworkers about Formula One because, I'm just trying to infiltrate the community.
Yeah.
And they had both like seen it. One of them had watched Drive to Survive. One of them haven't, but they were kind of getting into it. The guy who hasn't, his name is Gabe. And he like that night, the next day he was like, so I started Drive to Survive last night. I was like, hell yeah, you did. And it's weird. Like, I don't know how to be like, I'm like, yeah, I have a podcast. And it's an interesting thing because so many people have podcasts, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And I never know how to be like, no, but like I have a podcast, without sounding like a total loser, embarrassing. And so I'm just like, yeah, it's so fun. It's like, it's going really well. We got to, and by saying like, we got to do this interview or like saying those things, I feel like I can safely be like, it kind of popped off, which shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. But anyway, where this gets really exciting is he messaged me yesterday. We all got back to our homes on Thursday, but he was like, so my friend listens to your podcast. And I was
no
like,
way.
Wait, shut up. And he was like, yeah, I told her that like, that I met so, cause she's like, I guess loves Formula One. And she's like, gave us like, yeah, I met this girl, Hannah. She has a podcast. Have you ever heard of it? It's Fan Behavior. And he was like, her eyes just went wide. And now I feel really dumb because I did not ask for her name, which is my bad. But Gabe's friend, hi. Thank you for listening. Really excited that you're here. And I will ask him what your name is so I can give you a proper shout out next time.
Yes,
but
please.
Glad you're here. He's in Canada, so I'm assuming she's in Canada. So shout out to Canada.
Love Canada.
Yeah, so
that was
so
fun.
Yeah.
That's so fun. I have
really
3 fans.
Perfect. Makes me feel so much better that I
I'll
had
go.
2.
Well, like whatever. So speaking of getting people into Formula One, so on the trip that I was on, visiting a friend of ours who actually has been on this podcast, Fev. Back she was in the OG days. Back in the OG days when we did our non-F1 episode, she was on for Broadway, talking about her love of Broadway. But she's watching Drive to Survive.
Oh, thank goodness!
And she
finally
loves Lando. Obsessed with Lando.
So interesting because I was not obsessed with Lando during Drive to Survive, but man,
she like is aware of him like outside of like because she follows us, and she's like so she knows who he is. Yeah, so she loves Lando, she loves Daniel, and she loves Max.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I liked her.
We actually, and we can talk about this off mic too, but I think there's we're talking about maybe having her on because she'll be back here over like the holidays and doing like a sort of like getting somebody into Formula One episode and like kind of like an intro of like what she's watched. She can ask me questions, like kind of
love it.
So other people that maybe are trying to get other people in their lives into F1, like use it as a
because the time is coming, guys.
Yeah,
any amount of family time in the next few weeks, like it's crucial. It's important.
I think we all need to take it upon ourselves to get people into F1 this holiday season, and we can all do it. Okay, the next thing, very small, but I did think it was funny. Pierre Gasly posted a photo dump from his London adventure. I did not see him in London, but
what a shame.
Okay. But he posted with a wax figure of Lewis Hamilton, which was funny in and of itself. And then Lewis commented, "No tag."
That was so good. Lewis is really great on social media.
Yeah,
in like a really
I do
quiet way.
I do feel like Lewis has a kinship. Well, really for the French. Well, I guess he's not technically French, Charles Leclerc. But the French speaking besties of Charles and Pierre, I do think he has a fondness of the two of them.
My favorite part about that, I'm sure he saw it because it started getting shared around too, but it wasn't the first picture on the dump, right? So he had to swipe through to realize that he wasn't
right. And he doesn't follow any drivers.
Doesn't he just follow Roscoe?
He follows Roscoe, like Mission 44. He follows his
so
tequila
interesting
brand.
to have an empty feed.
Yeah, like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, sure.
Like you have to actively search things to find it, or like you'll just get like your For You page,
explore page,
like it's like a TikTok or something. But then my final fan, many of you wanted us to talk about it, but it was Danny Rick on stage with Zach Bryan.
So
fun.
Kennedy.
Obsessed. Love it so much. Also singing my favorite Zach Bryan song.
Yeah, so I've only heard Something in the Orange.
Okay.
And after Daniel got on stage, I downloaded his album.
Yeah,
and so
great.
I will be I want to know what song that is. I'll need to get the name of it from you.
Revival. The song is Revival.
I had a feeling it might have been.
For those, because some people did message us asking what the song was called. But he just looked so, he was just so happy. Yeah. Seemed a little bit uncomfortable, but like as he would, he's not a singer. And we got some messages. Actually, our friend Freya, who's been on the podcast, messaged us and was like, "I can't tell you the amount of people that I know that were at that concert because it was in Melbourne."
Yeah,
and she was like, "I was so mad that I wasn't there."
God, that's got to be so much more personal too, to like on your like people you follow on their stories rather than just seeing it.
Can you imagine?
No, I cannot.
Being at a concert and he comes out.
Like that is beyond unexpected.
I know.
Like Martin Garrix, sure, pick one, they'll pop out. But I didn't even know that they had a friendship.
Yeah. Anyway, I loved it. I've watched literally every TikTok whenever they comes up on my feed. I like watch the entire thing because it brings me joy. Faux.
I wrote it down. Oh yeah, just the Susie stuff really irritated me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in this like dry spell that we're having right now, like that's not what we need.
No.
And honestly, like it's wild that they allowed something to happen during a dry spell when we're all waiting for information. We will attack.
And
like I don't know what the version of the smoke or the snake emoji is for, Formula One fangirls against.
Let's just do snakes.
But it feels like someone else owns that, and I just feel like we should pick something else and just, we're here and we're watching you, and you're not safe from like a social media perspective. But Jason Statham's on our side now, so who knows? I don't know. I'd be careful. That Yuki and Jason
Statham, Zach Bryan,
Dermot Kennedy,
Taylor Swift
Terry Crews
through the Travis Alpine funnel, the Hemsworths.
Yeah, what's
Prince Harry?
What's Ryan Reynolds' superhero character?
Deadpool.
Yeah.
There's how many? There's so many F1 or celebrity F1 fans, but we will come after you.
Yeah, watch yourself.
My foe, and by the time this comes out, maybe this will have changed, is where is the Secret Santa video?
Retweet.
Give it to us.
Yeah, especially because we got teasers.
Give it to us.
Whoever.
I'm hoping it comes out this week.
Yeah, me too.
But
because I want to see Pierre's reaction when he opens the tripod.
Yeah,
hilarious.
We need to see that.
Brilliant gift idea, by the way. Whoever it was.
Nico.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, didn't expect that from Nico.
Well, someone else might have come up with it.
Yeah. So anyway, give it to us, F1. We need it, especially we need something positive, funny.
Also, did you see? I might have sent it to you, but I don't remember if I saw it on TikTok or Instagram. It's all basically the same. But Max correctly guessing the time or it was driver comms, and he was able to guess who said it and where.
Yeah.
You during the sim, do you just study all of the comms that happened at that race too? Like, how do you know that?
Maybe just being on the internet.
That's insane.
I know.
I don't even know if the most in it Formula One fan would be able to tell you those things.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive.
Wow. I mean, he just single focus, really.
Exactly.
It's really crazy.
Don't ask him about anything else. All right. Anything else we want to share?
I'm just so happy to be back with you guys. I've missed everyone terribly.
Just a bit of a scheduling note. I'm pretty sure we'll have an episode next week.
I think so.
But we will for sure be off. I'm just going to read the dates out so that people know. It's the week of Christmas, which I believe that episode would be is it the 26th?
I think so.
It is the 26th. And then the 2nd. January 2nd. We will definitely have no episodes those 2 weeks. TBD on the rest of it. But just prepare yourself for it will be a very small break. But I think, distance makes the heart grow fonder. You probably all need a break from us.
Yeah.
We need a bit of a break to recharge, to maybe revamp all of this. I'm gesturing to the set behind us for the audio listeners. And come out with, new season 2 of the F1. Yeah.
That's all we are now.
That's all we are now. But it will be our third F1 season as fans. Wow. So that's pretty crazy. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, review, rate on Spotify, all the things.
Oh yeah, I am. I did put Amazon storefront together because people said yes. So check the link in bio for that too.
Sublime. All right, guys. See you next week.
Enchante. Wow.